What is up? What is up? Happy day, my friends. Happy day, beautiful projections out there in this beautiful vacation planet. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Omar, part of the Watchers Talk team, coming at you guys from the ancestral homeland of the Shuswap Nation here on Turtle Island. And today's show, man, I've been looking forward to today's show for quite a long time now, and a couple of years at least. And the day is finally here, and I'm happy, and I'm very happy that it's happening. And you guys are going to enjoy this too. So welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you guys. Share this out with friends and family with whom you'll think will benefit from this information here today. We got ourselves our other shaman brother in the house today. We got two of them going on, right? We got our star sister Stone Hobbit from the same neck of the woods, who's our own shaman, and then we've got our brother Goz Goz, who's our own shaman, our urban shaman. I've had him on a number of times, a few times, and we've had, man, some amazing talks. One time we had a 9-hour marathon. That was sick. Just 9 hours. Goz just dropped a big download that time, and that was quite the show, quite the conversation too. I remember that clear like yesterday. So my beautifuls, stay hydrated out there. It is very hot. It is, I guess, about 100. According to America, about 135 degrees right now currently. It hasn't even peaked. Very hot. So keep your pets, your loves, your kits, your digs indoors, and keep them hydrated as well. Keep yourself hydrated. Sugar Bee, what is up, my love? Enjoy your family. Enjoy the barbecue. Enjoy the food that you got going on. It is wonderful times. Family time is wonderful time. I am going through that, and I had a beautiful surprise last night. I was just sitting here chilling, minding my own business after we did the Bush crime family, and suddenly my old electronic leash rang, and I went ring, and by the time I got around to it, it hung up, and it turned out to be my youngest son. And he sent me a picture of the outside of my apartment, and I looked at it, and I was confused. I was like, what is that? And I was like, is that your new place? And I was like, hey, wait a minute, that's my apartment. I was like, are you here, boy? He's like, yeah. No, man, I was so happy. I was so happy. I was so happy. I went running downstairs and grabbed him, gave him a big hug, brought him upstairs, loved him up for a bit. You know, it was wonderful. So family time is a great time, and for me, this happening, and I'm so looking forward to enjoying that moment. And I've got my cousin. Check this out, you guys know I don't know any part of my mother's family, and I recently found some of them and connected with my cousin. And she's going to be coming out next week. So I'm looking to have a wonderful reunion with her, meeting her for the first time and her husband, and hanging out for a few days. Of course, our oldest son, who is Michelin-trained chef, is going to be coming here next week as well with his girlfriend. And then our daughter's going to be showing up with our granddaughters. So it's wonderful times. And I'm really enjoying this. And then my mom's going to be here next week as well. The mother who raised me, my bestie's mom. And so she's going to be here with her husband. And it's going to be a wonderful time. And I'm looking so forward to it. And then eventually, wedding day, 10 days, my beauties, 10 days. 10 days, and I will no longer be a phasey. I will be a paw, and we'll be streaming as a paw. So looking forward to that. And once again, thank you very much to Eric Vibe for that beautiful, huge 30-pound pyramid with, oh man, it's got so many goodies in it. So thank you. Guys, check out Eric Vibe's channel. And if you're down to getting some of these pyramids, like I got one right here, right in front of me, if you're down to getting some of this kind of work done, some custom work, get a hold of Eric. And she will, I'm sure, will hook you up. So guys, let's get into it. I made a rap song. For our brother Goz Goz, because this is what's going on. So this is an Eminem song. Slim Shady, I guess. Guess who's back? sitting here, I was just chilling, and a song came to my mind, and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make that into a Goz song. So here goes the Goz song, my friends, and I'm gonna do it up. Guess who's back? Back again. Gozzy's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Na 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 na. They've created a monster because they don't want to see Goz Goz no more. They don't want Gozzy. He's chopped liver. Well, if you want Gozzy, then this is what he'll give you. A little bit of Goz mixed with some hard truth. Some facts that will jumpstart your heart quicker than a shock when Gozzy got shocked at the hospital by the doctor when he's not cooperating. When he's rocking the table while he's MK Ultraing. I know you got a job, Mr. Doc, but your mind control problem is complicated. So the government won't let me be, or let me be Gozzy, so let me see. They tried to shut me down, but the internet felt so empty without Gozzy. So come on and dip mind control on your lips. Jump back, jiggle a hip, and wiggle a bit, and get ready, because Goz is about to get heavy. Oh, man, I love that. I love that. As I was listening to that song, it's just rolling through my head. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do that up for Gozzy, because it's true. It is true. It's very true, and it's very sad, too, and it's very disturbing. And makes me very angry as well, as you guys may know or may not know, and maybe the new followers to the channel don't know, and those who have been around for a while, for at least a few years, you guys will know. Our brother Goz Goz is located down in the Aussie land, down under, and the guy is an absolute genius. He's brilliant. And you know what they like to do with genius and brilliant people? They like to shut them down. So little background, I'll give you guys. I met old Goz through a conference, our alien ancestry, with our brothers Stephen and Evan Strong. And Goz was giving a lecture on the Uyghur language, the original language of the world. And I was impressed by it. I was like, wow, you know, it makes a lot of sense on what this guy's talking about. So I want to learn more. So I reached out to him, and we started talking, and we did a few talks, and then he gave us a download on this ancient language that all other languages are essentially based off of. And then we got into like some Illuminati stuff and some satanic stuff, because you guys know how I like to keep upgrading my information on protocols of Saturn and highlighting the Illuminati and the Freemasons and that whole shit show that we have to deal with. And Goz is a great source of information on that. And then he really woke me up on the old MK Ultra and mind control, because he's gone through that, and in fact he's fighting that right now. And then, you know, after we had him on the show, this one time we did like this total 9-hour talk on reptilians and reptoids, and you know, an epic show that was. And then after that, you know, the government came after him. That was like really crazy, because really literally right after that, they came after him and they went at him, and then they eventually seized him and then locked him up into a loony bin, and then shocked him, and then medicated him, and he had to fight for his life to get the fuck out of there. And actually, you know what? I know how that feels, because I've gone through something similar, but nothing on the level that Goz has gone through. So this was my experience. I'll give you guys a little background, a little meat to the story, so that when I bring Goz on and when he's explaining this stuff to you, you will understand. As you guys know, I spent years and years and years in prison, and then before I got into prison, before I was sentenced, I was held in the Edmonton Remand Center for like 18 months. They refused to give me bail, and my lawyer went to the Court of Queen's Bench every single month to get me bail, but for 18 months, they said no, because my charges were very serious. You know, I was a violent person. I was, you know, nothing to be messed with. because I just responded in that fucked up frequency. And anyways, I committed some terrible crimes, and then the judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation on me, and I didn't know what that meant. And then I was transferred from the Edmonton Remand Center to this place called the Alberta Hospital. Right, and the Alberta Hospital is a loony bin. It's a place for people with some serious problems and some serious mental health issues as well. And so they had me stuck in there for a 30-day assessment, and then after 30 days, they couldn't figure out what was going on with me, so they'd stick me in there for another 30 days. So I ended up spending about 4 months in there, and I was medicated. I was heavily medicated, locked up, and probed, psychologically probed every single day by psychiatrists and psychologists, and it was a total nightmare. And at the end of the day, it didn't really help their case much, just aside from putting me through a lot of torture. And then I ended up getting 9 years in prison, and then I had to go and do my time. And so that's my background. So I was never actually, put into like a mind control type of environment. But our brother Goz here is in that state of, what would I say, a shit show, right? He's in that state of shit show because they're actively trying to seize him indefinitely because of the fact that he's telling us the truth, right? He's telling you and me the truth on what reality is and how reality is working and what's been happening on this planet. And you guys know already that anyone who speaks aggressively like that, they try to shut them down. If you can't cancel them, then you know what you do? Then you trump up charges. You put them in prison. And if prison doesn't work, and if they beat that, then the final solution, y'all know what that is, right? But the gameplay is changing. The rule books are changing because now we don't know what they're going to do because people are becoming wise to their lies, right? Because now we understand that when they're telling us shit, we look between the lines and we read in between, we do backwards, and we do research into it. And we understand that what they're telling us is garbage and it's lies. So it doesn't work on us anymore. So the rule book is changing. And now what they're doing, as we talked with Brad Olson yesterday, he was explaining to us that they can hack your mind, and through 5G, they can put sounds in your mind, right? Because remember when we were talking about Operation Blue something, the alien invasion, I forgot what the term is called, but the alien invasion, when they're going to show us, UFOs and, religious icons like Jesus and Muhammad and such, and then when they're up there, they're going to, filter voices in our heads to make us think that it's either Jesus or it's Buddha or Muhammad or Odin or Zeus or whoever the fuck it is that you believe in is speaking to you, and for you to do horrifying things, because that's really the end goal, because it's not meant to be good for you. So that's already in play, and that's something that our brother Goz is embattled with right now. So with that being said, putting a set together on this. Now the audio for Goz, is going to be in and out, because I hope it's going to be good. But the 10 minutes, 15 minutes that I was speaking to him prior to the show, the audio, wasn't really the greatest. You can still hear him, you can make out what he's saying, and and we believe that it is because of the frequency jamming or something towards that nature, that they're interfering, and possibly might even drop the connection on him. So his internet may even get lost during our stream. So hang tight, and let's just hope for the best and see if we can get through the next couple hours intact and come out with some good information. And most importantly, that it doesn't harm our brother Goz in any which way or form, because we know that they're actively out trying to get him. Now, I spoke to the hospital because Goz, in the beginning, when they seized him, he sent me the information, and I phoned the hospital, but they wouldn't let me speak with him. And then our sister, Stone Hobbit from New Zealand, she called a few times, and I think that she was able to make contact. And I think it's because of her accent, right? And she was able to get through. So, maybe if Stone Hobbit comes along, we'll maybe bring her on the stream and get a download on that. But for the time being, guys, let's bring Goz Goz back on and welcome him with the warm love, and hear him out on what's happening and what's happened, and what their intentions are, and especially with this sound to skull technology that they have that we're all becoming aware of. And yeah, what's up, Goz, my brother? Nice to have you back, man. It's been a couple of years. You've been through a rough ride, and I'm sorry for that. You know, generally am. I don't want to see anybody go through that. And but you know, I'm glad that you're here with us, and they weren't able to get the best of you. I know you had broken bones, and you had a bruised body, and you're detoxing yourself on you know, what they've put into you. So you know, again, my brother, just big apologies on what they've done to you. And you know, take this from the beginning. I'm going to give you the screen, and as questions come up, if they do, then I'll throw them at you. But you know, give us a download. We'll keep this at about 2 hours, because I find that YouTube, after a couple hours, they start, you know, fucking with the videos, right? They don't want to send those up and things like that. And then if we got to do round 2, 3, 4 over the next several weeks, then we'll do that. And so we'll keep that open. So welcome back, my brother. I'm going to give you the stage, and take us right from the beginning, man. Tell us exactly what happened, because we all need to know, because this could happen to any one of us, right? So here we go.
Thank you so much, Omar, there. And by all means, can you, on this particular talk, by all means, fire some direct questions at me to know certain things. If we could be more interactive.
Oh yeah, I'll be firing questions at you as you're going, and you know, as you're telling us. But I don't want to interrupt too much, right? Because I want to allow you to have your flow, because we've had conversations before, and I know that when you get into a flow, and I don't want to interrupt that, because I know where, you know, connection gets lost, and then you try to get back to that, and train of thought is lost at the time. So when you're in a heavy download, I'm not going to interrupt you, but when you stop, then I'll jump in with questions and such.
Well, okay, at the moment I'm experiencing really heavy electromagnetic pulse, EMP, directed energy weapon attacks. And what they got at the moment to do that through the 5G and what have you, and the big sort of combination of stuff they do, you've got a diagram there that we can show up to people that pretty much explains how the targeted individual sort of program actually works. And at the moment, I've been sleepless for days and days and days and days. I'm in the process of getting hackers to basically hack into the satellite server to basically get me off the targeted individual list. And that's the only way that you can actually stop all of this. And, you know, the hackers take a risk to doing this, and some of them are like ex-voice to skull operatives that have been trained up at DARPA, and some of them get a crisis of consciousness and they leave what they're doing. I actually have a video on my page that basically explains all that, an an operative who explains it very, very well. And then they go after them, the operatives, with the same voice to skull and frequency sort of attacks that I'm getting constantly, and they just constantly try to wear you down. And if you're not of an important, significant bloodline to them, they'll just kill you. Now with me, because I'm of an original Mudger royalty bloodlines, it took me all my life to sort of work out, and was the reason why I was satanically ritually abused when I was younger as an infant at the Manor, which is in a leafy lower North Shore suburb in Mossman in Sydney, and it's the Illuminati Southern Hemisphere Roundtable headquarters. And for some reason, my mother, she went to the Royal College of Medicine, and I'm pretty sure she was groomed up by the Masons, Illuminati, and all that sort of thing. She went through Sydney University. She made an important discovery that led to the Rockefellers to enable all of their cancer research and stuff like that. And by the end of the 60s, they sort of went, well, damn it with this cancer sort of stuff, because we can't really make any money from it. So we'll just basically close down all the natural cures and therapies and all that sort of thing that you can have for cancer. And my mother was working there because she was top of her field pathologist. And I don't know why she had a job there. I suspect they might have groomed her to be in the actual sort of Illuminati itself. I can't get any answers out of my mother. She's a bit old now to question on this sort of thing, and she doesn't want to talk to me anyway. And when my father died in 2008, basically my mother and my brother kicked me to the curb, and they didn't even tell me that my father died. And I found out posthumously in 2010 about my father dying, and that's 15 years ago in 2008. And ever since then, basically, none of them will talk to me or anything like that. Been kicked to the curb on my own, all that sort of thing.
I'm in the same boat as you, brother. I know exactly what you're going through and what you have felt, because I haven't spoken to my dad or my side of the dad's family since about 2006, and prior to that, it was very sporadic here and there. And I think I know about 1% of my dad and 0% of my mother. Right. And I'm totally estranged from them. They want to have nothing to do with me. And, I totally understand. And I don't even know if my dad is alive or dead. Right. And I really don't care. Right. But, just to, input on that I totally understand, empathetically on what you mean there.
Well, we've got a lot in common, brother. A lot in common. Just listening to your intro there, you've talked to me about, that you had, because you're from stolen generations, and you're half, I can't remember the Indian tribe that you're from. Mohawk, that's right. Yeah. And half Pakistani, and that you had a troublesome childhood and that sort of thing that basically led up to this sort of unfortunate situation that you just described to everybody. And as I was listening to it, I'm going, wow, we really have so much in common. It's just ridiculous. But it's really nice to have that validation and to have a brother that's not afraid to sort of stand up for what's true and ethical and righteous. And we've both been through the school of hard knocks, but we're survivors, and because we never give up, we're basically getting through. Now with me, because I'm of original Mudgee Royal bloodlines, and I was the main attraction at the most important Illuminati rituals in their history during the mid-70s. In 1975, 1976, there were 2 rituals. And basically speaking, it was a who's who in the Illuminati zoo. And of everyone at the rituals, whether there were so many children there, it was ridiculous. And it's amazing that I have memories, because everyone gets memory wiped. 98% of the ritual attendees, whether it's the sacrifice victims and all that sort of thing, and also the Illuminati children were there in the who's who of the Illuminati zoo, and they were all groomed back then and mind controlled and sexually ritualized and programmed to basically take the leading positions in society that they are in now, right through to the media, the movie, the music industry, the politics, the finance, the banking, everything.
The Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah, and because it was so long ago, and the people, there was basically only 2% of the ritual attendees being the 1%. They're the only ones that basically didn't get memory wiped. And most of those 1% that were there at the time, because it was so long ago, it's like, getting on to 50 years ago, and I was born in 1968 and I'm 55 now. Most of them are dead, and that's basically how they sort of planned it, for no one to ever know about these particular rituals. And as far as I know, I'm the only person who's basically come through the manner where I was basically satanically ritual abused. I was used to basically, they have an Egyptian satanic rite temple in there, and I was put on a rug on the floor, and this particular professor that I'm sure is a certain Rothschild. I won't say which particular Rothschild at the moment. Maybe when I warm up into this a little bit more, I might get into who he is and what he was done. And through my mother working there as a young child, infant, she used to bring me along there. And so I basically, one of the things, so I was basically experimented on, used in rituals. And on this particular occasion, I was used, this professor told me to look into the eyes of this old Atlantean statue. And I didn't want to do it, But basically they put me on acid and other sort of drugs because the professor had a study where on one wall he had all of these jars which literally had all these weird alien looking sort of giant reptile frogs and things like that that you'd probably find in deepest, darkest Africa and places of South America. And I've never seen anything like it. And basically the professor sort of treated me like an adult as he was grooming me to get the best out of me because, you know, the innocence of a child, you get out all the truth. And at that age, you know, when, as far as I remember, when I was 4.5 in 1972, that's when it started. And basically he was telling me to look into the eyes of the statue, and then once the acid and basically he also used to draw out sort of venom, you know, from some of these jars and stuff like that and mix it, you know, with the acid and all that sort of thing to get me into a particular state that was pliable and compatible so I could be doing the work for them. And like as Aleister Crowley said, to get the best out of rituals like this, you need a young, innocent child that's very highly intelligent to be able to do it. Otherwise, the rituals won't work properly. And so I eventually looked into the eyes once the drugs took on and all that sort of thing. And literally, once I looked into the eyes, all of a sudden, these two lights in the eyes of the statue just lit up. And then after that, from a little duct in the actual, just under the eye, basically all of this sort of like hazy sort of grey sort of mist and stuff like that started coming out of the statue. And basically this thing basically came out, like all the mist basically came out, basically swirled about, all that sort of thing. And then bang, in a moment's notice, boom. The Governor General, I call the fake cat because it is a fake cat, because it's a Draco, which is a hybrid between reptile, animal and human, many different animals. And that's the thing about, and this is what is known as the Christian devil, okay, and it's a Draco. And it had been locked up in this statue for a very long time. And they basically did, at the end of Atlantis, all these rituals that basically locked up all of these Dracos and solidified them into statues. And a lot of time travel's involved. And these guys knew what they were doing, you know, the 1%. And they deliberately did this, and they got the major royalty to do this in the ritual. They were torturing this sexually, all this sort of thing and stuff like that. And they basically had to dig up and find all of these statues all around the world. And a lot of them are on certain buildings in Australia. In Norway is the perfect example. Have you ever seen those solidified statues in Norway that just look too lifelike? There's a certain park, I think, in Oslo there. Omar?
No, I don't think I have, but I'm going to Google it right now and find it. And
oh yeah, I've got some photos. I should have sent some stuff through and stuff like that. Maybe we can do that next time. But yeah, have a look through. You'll find some life stuff there, and it's just incredible. And what they were intending to do was to basically release all of these Dracos from all of these different statues that have been on buildings in different places, gargoyles, all of that sort of thing. And they wanted to release them all to be part of this whole, you know, fake alien invasion, the Project Bluebeam that you were talking about before, to be part of that, I'm sure, but do it back then. But in all these rituals, to cut a long story short, they only managed to release about 30% of them because they fucked up all the rituals, because they should have done the Port Macquarie rituals first before they started taking stuff out at the manor, starting it at the manor. And I found this out from a certain insider named Stanley Kantankarakis, who's now dead. He died in 2019, so it's safe to talk about him now and what he told me. And he was basically sent in to basically befriend me and all that sort of thing, to get information out of me, as a lot of insiders have done. And you're dealing with a lot of dodgy sort of characters, but you got to go there, because the thing is that you got to go behind the stage curtain, right to the back room, green room, and the producer's room to find out what's going on, because you're not going to find out anything in the front of the stage and what's given out into the mainstream. It's very, very hard to dot connect and put things together. You can get to a certain level, but if you really want to know stuff, you really have to go there, you know, with people that have been through stuff. And all these people were coming into my life and stuff like that, and I just had to go there. As much as I know that they were trying to use me, I was also being very silent at times and observant and finding out what information I could from them. And with Stanley, I actually had a friendship, and he's the only one of all of them who in early 2019, he rang me up and he said, look, I'm really sorry. I've done some terrible things against you. And are we still here?
Yeah, we're here, brother. Just keep talking. These are the statues.
Just pause for a second. And he basically said to me, because he knew what he called the riddlers, that were all these people that were also, they were all walked in by Dracos and stuff like that. And some of them were like controllers of time and things like that. You know, it's getting pretty out there. Yeah, that's it. That's all the statues. Okay. Keep going. Like, look at that baby. There's another baby. Keep on going further down. Is there more pictures? Okay, let me pick one out for you. Okay, look at this one here.
This one?
This one here, it's basically got all these people in sort of like a obelisk, like sort of statue configuration. That's it. Have a look at that. Look at all of that. Look at all those people that have been solidified, like a Vesuvius eruption, like you see with some of the Mount Vesuvius stuff. And by the way, Vesuvius comes from Vese in Mudger, which means danger belt, because of the volcano there and stuff. It's pretty gruesome stuff, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
It's pretty macabre and disturbing. Okay, let's move on. There's another picture of a baby there that's standing up, and you should see the frozen look on its face. And there's also another picture of a woman with a reptile. There we go. Check that out. Oh, stop. Go back up a little bit. Just a fraction.
This one?
No, go back. Just draw the page up just a little bit further. There we go. This one here. Look at the baby on the right here. Look at this baby. Look at that. Now, that is not a statue. But look at it. It's too perfect. Look at the expression, everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's been frozen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I totally hear what you're saying.
And the thing is, I also found out that they hid some of these statues too in the Berlin Wall because it was cheap real estate rent. But when they basically took down the Berlin Wall in 1989, they sent in some neo-Nazis to basically ship them all out before anyone found them. And I found that out of a certain insider. I can't really say his name at the moment, because if I say his name, they did a big psyop on me with the voice to skull. And they basically, they've got these more photos, and they can literally copy anyone's voice perfectly. And they do this artificial telepathy at you. And the first artificial telepathy that I got, and the voice that I heard basically in 2018, was my father. And I thought it was my father talking to me from the dead. And the voice was just perfect, and the character and everything. So these people have got some monstrously good technology that can fool anyone. And yeah, yet again, I just had to pick up what was going on the fly and work things out as I was going. And then I realized that, oh my goodness, they've literally studied my whole life, the whole everything. And they've brought in all these people, you know, different voices in my head over a period of months, of people that I've known and people that I've still known now, that they've turned all against me and all the rest of it, you know. And this is what they do. They isolate you to cut you off you know, as part of this whole process of shutting you down.
I'm here, bro. I'm listening.
Yeah. Where am I going to go next? So back to the manor. And so they also used me in experiments. They were constantly injecting me with things. And I remember one day there was this nurse sort of character there that I remember one time that she basically put a needle into my balls to basically extract sperm, okay, after she tried to basically excite me and try to get sperm out of me at that age, which was just, ugh. You know, it's like as if you're going to do that at that age when you're innocent, you don't even have a clue about sex or anything like that. But, you know, she's probably had pedo, and that was Jackie Kennedy, Jackie Onassis. And I was told that she was basically a handler for my mother. That's something I can't confirm, okay, but that's what I was told. It kind of makes sense. For a while there, I was thinking maybe my mother was handler of her. I don't know. It could have been the other way around. And anyway, there was one day she was basically about to put this huge fucking injection into me, and I just kicked up a huge tantrum, and I just refused and refused and refused, and I was kicking her and stuff like that, and I just refused it all. And eventually, and I was just calling out for my mum, started crying, and basically my mother came into the room and everything like that, and I went to my mum for reassurance and stuff like that, and my mum ended up injecting me herself. Whether she was told to do that or forced to do that, I don't know. But it was at that stage, that's when my mother said to me that she, and other people, that she felt she lost me at the age of 7. Well, she's absolutely right, because that was the moment. From that moment, I never trusted my mum ever again, because my mum she was a manic depressive, same as my father, and they used to fight like cat and dog. But my mum, when my father lost it, he could get very violent and angry and sort of used to beat me occasionally, but he had a limit. But with my mother, whoa, she was a psychopath. When she used to go off and psycho, she was more scary than my father. And my father was a big guy too. But my mother, you know, she's 5'6", and my goodness, you know, and, you know, I had a couple of times in my childhood where she just lost it at me. And I remember actually when I was about, I think it was 16 or 17, and one summer school holidays, and we were in the kitchen, and I can't even remember what it was all about. And I knew she was just about to lose it at me, and anything could happen when my mother lost it. And so I just basically ran out of the kitchen onto the balcony, and I was just about to turn the corner of the balcony, and boof, this glass tumbler hit my head. She just hit me with a bullseye, and that was from about 15 or 20 metres. It was incredible. And so that was the nature of my mother. Otherwise, she's highly, highly intelligent. And like all of these bipolar sort of types, Illuminati types, what they do is that they master both ends. What they teach them to do in Freemasonry and stuff is to master both ends, extreme ends of the duality. It's like how Bill Gates, you know, he spends a lot of money selling himself with the philanthropic side, and they all do philanthropic and stuff like that to negative gear all their tax, all of that sort of thing, and make themselves look good to the world. But, you know, behind closed doors of secret societies and stuff like that, well, they're doing horrible things in rituals and eating babies and all that sort of thing. And you can look at David Icke's videos that he did in the 90s about that thing, that stuff with, what was her name? I can't remember. Most people.
Grove?
Sorry?
The Bohemian Grove?
Not the Bohemian Grove. There was this particular woman that David Icke interviewed that, you know, told about all of the rituals, and she was MK Ultra and the whole everything.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how all the elites sort of, you know, when it came time to do the sacrifice and stuff like that, they'd all start shape-shifting into reptiles and start eating the victim and drinking the blood and all that sort of thing. And that's all true, that stuff, because I've seen it all. Like what happened at Port Macquarie Ritual, they had all these Dracos that were basically as they were trying to get them all out of the statues and stuff like that, and they were sexually ritualizing the children, the Dracos would be, which are the reptoids, joining in as well. And the Dracos would basically go into the people through the chakras, usually through anal sex and stuff like that, to basically put in etheric implants to program all of these people. And they put them in your genital, stuff like that.
Kathy O'Brien?
That's it. No, it's not Kathy O'Brien, sorry. I just wish I could remember her name. But it's
I'm trying to think of all the... Because he researched MK Ultra mind control for decades.
Yeah. Oh, look, he's done some great work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I can go just a little bit deeper into it because I've experienced it, and I've had a recall of about 40 to 50% of what I've been through. But that's the thing. They memory wipe you from all of this stuff, mainly using the drug called scolopamine. And it's a CIA drug too that they use for abducting and kidnapping people. And there's a video on YouTube for about half an hour that explains about the drug scolopamine and the flower that it comes from in Colombia. And it's a hybrid plant. And so it's not natural to nature, because there's, you know, a big difference between the original organic sort of plants and trees and fauna to the hybrid stuff. And, you know, basically you've got the line and the circle, which are the two archetypes in all of omniversal nature, universal nature. And the line is masculine, the circle is feminine. But in all of these old indigenous trees, like I'll give you an example, the Kaya Nunna tree, as it's basically called in the original people's languages, it's known as the Moreton Bay fig tree. They always change the names of very important tree. And that means mother spirit tree. And there's certain portals in some of these trees and spirit guardians as well that you can see in these trees. And basically speaking, what was I going to say? What was I saying? I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, man, I lost it.
It's all good, man. You were talking about the mind control and then David Icke's interview, and then after that, the Illuminati. Yeah,
I was going somewhere with it, but I just lost the thread. I'm sorry. I'll probably pick it up at some sort of stage. And so, yeah, and also at the manor, I was, you know, molested and all the rest of it. I don't want to go into the gory details of all that sort of stuff to do with child abuse and stuff, because it's just too disturbing, and people have heard it before, and I don't want to trigger too many people on all of that sort of stuff.
I want to know what happened in Goz when they came for you to drop you in the hospital there last year, a year before that, about a year ago, I guess now.
Yes.
You know, like what took place, and you know, and then what you have to go through while you were in there.
Oh, there was a certain woman that rang me up. She was up in the northern New South Wales coast town, well, not coast, just inland town of Mullumbimby at the time. And she just rang me up, and she'd watched some of my shamanic videos that we had done, and she was asking me a whole heap of questions and stuff like that and everything like that. And then I'm sure there was psychiatrists would call it a you know, a multiple personality disorder. But this particular personality that was coming through her present being that would take over, it was speaking Mudger language. And I'm going, you're talking Mudger. And she didn't have a clue what I was talking about. And I'm going, oh, goodness, I'm going to have to check this woman out, because, you know, this is a really rare sort of occurrence. And then 2 weeks later, we basically had a 7-hour phone call, and I was testing her abilities and stuff like that. And I'm going, oh, my goodness. And cut a long story short, she wanted to come down and do some healing with me. And so she drove down here, and she stayed at my house for a couple of months. But to cut a long story short, the voice skull people got into her, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And just fucked up the whole situation. And unfortunately, yeah, and eventually they turned her against me after a certain phone call she had with her children, and the voice of the skull basically told her that her ex-husband and one of her sons were pedophiles and stuff like that. And I'm going, are you sure? How do you know? You know, she said, I don't know, it's women's intuition. And I go, okay. And that just ended up a disaster, nightmare. And basically, I told one of the sons my address, here, come up and see your mother. She's fine. She's having a good time, as she said to her daughter, all that sort of thing. But instead, they send up the police, and basically the police squad knocked down my door and came in, beat the shit out of me completely, kneeing me, punching me, doing all this Brazilian jiu-jitsu sort of stuff on me that basically twists your body up sort of inside and doesn't show any marks. They knew exactly what they were doing. And right at the end of it, they tasered me for about 4 or 5 seconds. It just shattered all. Oh. You know, I'd spent ages healing my body from past sort of, you know, crap that I've had to get through. And this is the third time that I've had to basically deal with this sort of loony bin sort of situation and get through it and fix my health up and get back to normal and get back on track. And unfortunately for the poor woman, I'm pretty sure she basically turned against me to try and save face with the family, but it just made it worse for her. And she made a police report against me, and I was accused of common assault, where basically, you know, I was exonerated from in court. I had a very good solicitor, and I got a solicitor and barrister now that's basically just waiting on me to get all my details together, because they say that I got a very good chance for compensation, because there's a police video of what happened to me when the riot squad came in to do it. And when they were doing the most serious sort of beating up, the cops stand behind the other cops sort of beating me, like as you see, you know, in the street when they basically get someone. And a few of them start beating them up, and then the rest of them form a ring around them, as Max Ergen says. You know, they stand around like a bunch of faggots, keeping other people away, so they can beat the hell, you know, in a very masochistic way out of people. You know, like as we saw when people just weren't even wearing a mask. So yeah, so that's basically what happened to me. And so after that, I had to go to court to face an aggravated violence domestic order 2 days later, after I was beaten up and arrested and taken to the police station for 4 hours, and then they let me go. But for the next month, I was just a mess. I was stiff as a board and couldn't move. I couldn't go to court or anything like that. And they gave me an extra charge for not turning up to that, which was exonerated too. And this is the thing, they basically treated me as I was guilty until proven innocent. It was just despicable behaviour of the police and the way that they handled the whole situation. And basically, when I first they sent me to a jail holding cell for 3 days, which is unusual. One night they kept the lights on all night, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, the police basically came in to try and serve me more papers and this, that, and the other. And I'd say, what are you doing here? You know, it's like, no, I don't have to do that while I'm here in jail. It's sort of like I'm yet to face, because when you're in the holding jail, they usually sort of put you before the court with a video camera. And I did that and talked to a solicitor and a mental health nurse, but I never got to talk to the magistrate. And I was there in the holding cell for 3 days. And then I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here now? And then eventually these prison guards took me out. And instead of taking me to the local sort of hospital, mental hospital that's close to my area, they took me to another mental health holding facility. And when they took me there, I talked to the registrar nurse and about what happened in my situation, and she goes, okay, just hold there and wait for me. And she was away for about 2 to 2.5 hours. And then these prison guards, cut a long story short, were really corrupt. they started getting itchy feet and ants in their pants, and they basically said, come on, we're going to another facility, let's go. And basically I had handcuffs on my hands and my feet, and so I couldn't move, and hence they were wheeling me around in a wheelchair. And I got up out of the wheelchair and I said, look, the registrar nurse said she'd be back. Come on, let's just wait a little bit longer. And he said no. And this prison guard just threw me back in the chair, and it just put my whole right hip out and made my injuries even worse. And they took me to another holding facility much further out from Sydney in the west. And they basically put me into this place, and I was there for 2 weeks, and it was brutal. Some of the nurses there were like psychopaths. And quite often when I basically questioned these nurses on some things without getting angry or anything like that, they just went nuts at me, and they basically slammed me back into my room. And I'd have 2 nurses putting injections into me in both sides. And I'd just basically give them nothing. And the best way to deal with a psychopath there is you don't give them anything. You don't show you're in pain or anything like that. You just go deep into your centre and you hold it there. And I was just saying to them, you know, are you having fun here? Are you getting off it? And I just basically did a psychological deconstruction of their psychology. And one of them ended up sort of basically apologising me to later when they shifted me to another sort of unit in the same hospital. And he came and gave me meds one day, and he said, look, if you don't want to take it, basically, you know, you don't have to take it. Well, I took it anyway because otherwise I'd get into trouble. But, yeah, that was the sort of situation there. And I eventually, like I said to staff, look, I should be at this hospital over here near my home. You know, I shouldn't be here because it was just like the wild, wild west. And like the psychiatrist basically prescribed me meds before they'd even had an interview with me. It was crazy.
Yeah, same thing happened to me. They gave me Prozac. They tried to put me on Prozac, and I just refused.
Yeah, they gave me this drug called Clopixel, and it absolutely sent me sideways. And I felt like my organs were caving in. Oh, my whole body was shifting around, and I really had to hang on hard this one particular night there. And then the same thing happened to me when they eventually, I managed to get a transfer back to the hospital that I should have gone to, because at least the staff there are a lot more civil, and they're not, you know, as bad as the staff were out there. And I knew, well, at least, you know, they'll sort of do the usual sort of thing and give me a community treatment order and set me back and give me meds and all that sort of thing. And so I spent 2 months going through, a bit over 2 months going through both sort of hospitals. And then they let me go on a community treatment order, and I got out, and that was okay. And then I spent a month just healing my body at home after that. And then the voice to skull thing got me again. And this one Sunday night, basically I started yelling at it and stuff like that. And one of the neighbours complained that I was making too much noise and stuff like that. And then the police came around at 3, 4 in the morning. And where I live anywhere, which is a Department of Housing area, there's people yelling and going off all the time and stuff like that. It's totally hypocritical. And I'm usually very quiet here all the time, except voice to skull gets me on a massive psyop. And that was the last psyop they managed to get me. They've gotten me 3 times over the last 5 years. They're very, very clever. And they can't get me again because they've run out of psyop options. And so now they're just hitting me hard with direct energy weapons, you know, the frequency stuff. And they're trying to sleep deprive me and make me go crazy. I had a friend ring me up as well to say that basically, Steve, I've been told to warn you that the FMs, you know, the Freemasons aren't happy with you. And if you don't stop sort of posting stuff on Facebook and all the rest of it, basically they're going to drug you to the eyeballs and make sure that you're locked up and you can never get out. So I've been under a huge, extreme amount of pressure. I still am at the moment. But my whole life has been a world of pain, and I've gotten used to it. And not that I want to, but I perform my best when I'm under pressure and high pressure stuff. And I don't particularly want to be this way because my soul nature is not like that. But this is what I know. And the whole mudjo thing is to sort of, well, how can you turn a shit situation into a golden opportunity? And this is how I constantly get out of these situations, Omar. I'm sure you can relate to it.
I find the good in any situation that I'm in, even if it's the shittiest of the situations, because I won't
Yeah.
let it get the best of me. I just absolutely refuse that, because I see it as an experience that I'm going through, and that is it. And this too shall pass, and then I move forward. But I don't
Absolutely.
cooperate, I don't comply. I don't cooperate. I don't collaborate. If you're coming at me, then then I'm not going to cooperate. That's just it, right? And I'm just wondering, we post a lot of shit on Facebook, right?
No, exactly right.
And I'm wondering the difference between, say, yourself and myself. Is it possible that because you are a victim of MK Ultra and I'm not, that they're not worried about what I'm posting, and then that's why they're targeting you, because you know the truth and that you could eventually blow the lid on their activities, right? Because then that's the only difference that I'm seeing, because they're not
Well,
coming
you're
at me.
being very brave in going further with me with the unique information that I have from behind the stage, the Illuminati stage, so to speak. And it's like this Mudger information too. Most of that was all wiped out during the Inquisition for centuries. And they absolutely hammered the poor Hungarian people for like 500 years. And the Vatican and the usual suspects and the Sabbatean Frankists were basically constantly triangulating Hungary. It used to be 60% of Europe. In 500 years, right up until World War One, they basically reduced it to what it is now, cut up all the into new countries, gave them all new sort of Indo-European languages, and basically set all of those countries one by one, century after century against the Hungarians. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Hungarians, as Attila Flink found out, that are just sort of, alcoholic TV watchers, just, the standard sort of sheep. They would just reduce them down. But when you come across Hungarians that are usually expats that have gotten out of there, or if they're still in Hungary, they call them right-wing extremists now. We're probably, 10 years ago it was all left-wing, but they've flipped left and right now, which is the typical Black Draco thing, because the whole thing is that they want, as it says in the Bible, they created man in the image of them. Well, that's all sort of, the Bible is predictive programming, as we know, it's their predictive programming thing, it's computer coded, the whole everything. And
it's not what people think it is. It's something completely different.
Yeah, and they want everyone to be in their image, in their consciousness, the Draco consciousness, which is a perverted sort of sexual mindset. They're very, very they're totally mind-oriented because they don't have a soul center. That's the whole thing. They have all these amazing, amazing abilities and stuff like that. But when a human basically gets into their soul center, we are far more powerful than them. And I've been giving that information out on centering because I've spent over 30 years I had to spend 20 years examining all of the shamanistic stuff and what crumbs of information was available all around, the world, and researching and stuff like that. Then when I met Attila Flink in 2008, it just triggered all of these memories when I was told when I was younger, I was a Mudger and stuff like that when I was in England in 1977. And that's another story that I'll get to. But I had this man in this bric-a-brac furniture shop. Like, my parents used to go to antique shops and stuff like that all the time. And on this particular morning, I had a huge argument with my mother. I think I'd been sort of to some sort of weird sort of place the night before, or ritualized or something like that. And I was just yelling at my mother, like, what was I, 9 years old at the time at that stage. And my father was trying to keep me in check. And it was just a nightmare sort of, it was like that all the time. The dynamics with my parents, there was just constant distortion and static because they used to fight like cat and dog as well. And when we got to this bric-a-brac furniture shop, I was just so upset. When I was really upset when I was young, I basically used to go and find some sort of nature reserve or something like that and just sit and just, as a child, you just naturally do what you've got to do to ground. And I just used to sit on the ground and put my hands and feet on the ground. And I found that out the back of the shop, there was this sort of reserve and stuff like that with this weird sort of illuminated sort of like statue and things like that. And eventually I calmed down after half an hour, went back to the shop and went into the shop, up the stairs on this landing, and the man of the shop came out and he said, look, we probably won't have much time until your parents come back, but basically I recognised who you are from the moment that you walked in. Like, this man could centre, you know, I worked out later, you know, as an adult, you know, and not then. And basically he brought out this very, very old book, which I'm sure was the Holy Bible, Natural Law of Magnetism / Love. And he basically told me who I'd been significantly in the past life. I'm not going to say who that is because it's not about adulating my ego and being a narcissist here. And I've had to come to terms with that as it is, as I've gotten older. But it was the first time I had an adult telling me the truth, because I always used to find adults, all my childhood, I was always having to duck and weave, and they'd always been two-faced, and I could see all of that, you know. I'd always hear them in conversation and say different things to me. And it was crazy in the 70s, growing up in the 70s here in Australia, absolutely crazy. And, you know, there was a lot of, you know, sex parties and all that sort of thing at the manor as well, because they were hot, and they're highly involved with the music industry and people like that coming in and all that sort of stuff. And basically this man, I won't say his name because I know he's still alive in England there somewhere. He'd be in his 90s now, and I know he's still alive. I tried to find him in 2016, and he basically, and I've just gone, wow, it just resonated, all this information he told about me, and he was reading stuff, you know, out of his book and stuff like that. And then and we were doing that for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then my mother and father basically came back into the shop, saw me, and literally dragged me out by the ear, and that was it. And for the rest of the day, I was going to my mum, come on, Mum, you got to let me back. I've got to see this man. I've got to see this man. It's so important. And I basically blabbed all this stuff to her, you know, what he told me, and I shouldn't have done it, you know, but it's my mother after all. And basically, I just gave her the shits all day, saying that and doing that. And eventually in the evening, she just injected me with something, and I gone, oh, and then I felt the flavour of the injection. I gone, oh, not this again. And I knew I was being memory wiped. And so I sat on the bed in the place that was staying somewhere in London on that particular night. And I just went over and over and over again. The address, you know, on Whitechapel Road where this bric-a-brac shop was 184. It's no longer there, as I found out when I went over to England. It's now a Muslim temple. But basically, I just went over and over and sitting on the bed until I fell asleep that night because I knew I was going to be memory wiped. And basically, I didn't get that memory back until January 2016, where I just had a massive download and it all came back, because the more that I got deeper into the Mudger information and what Attila Flink told me and stuff like that, and, you know, it basically tied up all the shamanistic knowledge and how to censor it. And Attila knew a lot of shamanic information without sort of even really realising. And I was just cherry picking all of his stuff, and he was just incredible. But he still had a certain naivety and innocence to him. And unfortunately, he was triangulated by Masons and secret society people all of his life, and sending agents in to basically go in and steal his work and also make his life hell, so he couldn't finish his work on the Sydney language and Tasmanian languages. And so once I realised that, when I was hiding out in Thailand for about 10 months, because I had to get out of here because I was looking after Attila. It took me 3 years to get his trust, and then I helped him with his personal affairs. He had a house that basically, Department of Housing that owned the place next door, built a retainer wall right next to his house that used to fill up with rain all the time, and it used to leak all the time, and it was rotting his foundations, and it was making his house fall down, and he was trying to get the Department of Housing to basically pay him compensation to fix up his house. and he was just getting nowhere with it. And basically, he needed to make all these engineering reports from different sort of engineering companies on the house and the state of it. And Attila was a master builder and knew exactly what was going on with everything. And he knew how to make the original sort of Mudger Phoenician concrete, bondcrete stuff that you see in what they call all these Tartarian buildings. But I reckon they're all, a lot of them, they're not necessarily Tartarian buildings, but it's from that sort of area. Because Tartaria was like, you know, in sort of Western Russia. You know? And basically speaking, when the English came here, all the original people that were in the harbour, that were all the Gadigal people, as we discussed when we first met, remember I told you the Arcadians, Arcadian, they're from Sydney Harbour, because that's what Gadigal means, people of the harbour. And the Chaldeans were white Mudgers that came from here as well, and they travelled from here up to where they are in the Northern Hemisphere, and they're all identity hijacked. And that's the thing, with all the Mudger affinity, the Sabbatean Frankists have basically used the Jewish people and Hebrews, you know, the original black Hebrews, to basically identity hijack the whole Mudger affinity and then pervert it and make it their own history. Okay? You know, it's like with the equation, the Draco equation, what they do to basically, for us to be in their image, it's to basically get us, split us with trauma, turn it all into duality, which is the bipolar thing, and then reverse the bipolarity. And hence we see with the whole transgender thing now, you know, they want the man and the woman and the man. They just want to fuck everything all up.
Yeah, here's something that I discovered recently, Gauzy, is you know, the human chakras and the colors that are associated with the chakra.
Yeah, they're reversed.
Those are identical to the pride flag.
Yeah,
like, and they're identical. They're working from the root down instead of from the root up. They're coming down.
It should be red up here, infrared for the fisheye. Remember when I said when you send them, you know, and you found you were saying that there's a little blue crystal in the
That's
top
right. There's a small crystal right in between the brain hemisphere. And it's about the size of the grain of rice, and it's part of a much bigger network of crystallization inside the brain, and it's called magnetite. And there's 500 million parts of this magnetite within 1 gram of brain tissue.
Well, magnetite's iron oxide, and it's what's known as black clay. Like I've got some here. And I basically
the spinal cortex and your base of your skull and inside is literally coated, and then you have this crystal that's between the brain that links the two together.
This is some magnetite here. Okay. Now this is some Australian black clay that I bought this in bulk of a dude here 10 years ago, and I've still got one left, and I use this for frequency and protection and stuff like that. And you can basically have this black clay, and it basically helps heal all of the Morgellon symptoms. Okay, and
I was talking about that yesterday with my guy.
Yeah, and when I basically released that on Morgellon's Live with Michelle X a few years ago, and I basically see that's the problem on Facebook when you post certain things to certain places, the NSA or CIA or FBI basically go and, you know, close those websites down and make it not available. And as soon as I started talking about this and what you can do with it, all of a sudden you couldn't get Australian black clay anymore. And so, yeah, this is like hen's teeth. It's really rare and hard to get now. And you can get some black clay from Brazil, but I find the quality is not as good as this, but it is actually really good. And there's some up in Hudson's Bay and also, you know, the Gulf Stream in America. But all of that clay is sort of polluted from basically what's gone on up in those places. And so it's really hard to get some of this stuff that's not polluted and stuffed up. And this is really good. Like, as you said, we've got magnetite in the brain, and we need that for coordination, you know. And
it's the most magnetized substance in the universe. There's nothing more magnetic than that. And it works wonders within the brain. Here's the I want to show you this right here.
Sorry, I'm just putting the clay back into its place onto my orgone generator. Yes. Yeah.
Right, so the one that's on the left-hand side, like this one on the left-hand side, that's the pride flag. It works red, orange, yellow. It works down. But when you look at the human chakra color system, the root is red and it works from bottom up. But when and this is the this is when it's flipped, right? So these guys are working from the root down, right? So
well, the red should be up the top, because when you use the fisheye basically through your head, you're basically shining light up. As we are organic technology, you're shining light up to the omniverse universe. It's really omniverse, but I say both. Just for simple explanation, so I don't confuse anyone. And we're light beacons, and we are connecting with nature, and we are actually nature custodians. That is our purpose for being here. And so literally we have an infrared sort of thing going up here into the heavens, so to speak. I just thought I'd mention that. Yeah. And it's meant to be red up here, and your sexual chakra is actually meant to be purple. And what they do with the colours, they distort the colours as well. So it's actually fire engine red, which is not a colour that you actually see in nature. It's not like a subdued sort of natural watercolour. Okay. If you want to get to all the natural colours of nature, use watercolour paint. That's the way to go. And because it's fire engine red, it's just attracting trouble. And what they teach all the Illuminati types is to basically operate from your sexual chakra, especially when you're having sex and all that sort of thing. But no, you've got to go from your center first, then down here, okay, for that sort of activity. And
I see what you're talking about.
And it makes it easier for much mind control, so the entities can get in.
That's where I suppose foreplay would come in, right? Because with the foreplay, you're centering yourself and not just getting right down to.
That's right, because there's the whole
body, right? You're getting your heart into it, and you're centering yourself to your partner, and then you're doing the deed. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Well, there's the whole thing with sexual union. There's a whole body to be discovered, and when you're making a baby in ancient times, you're doing foreplay for months, sometimes years, before you actually make a baby. Generate as much stuff and connection from nature and bring in certain spirit aspects here. So when you're centering, okay, this is right in the middle of the carry-on glyphs, okay? Right in the center of it. It actually tells you how to center. There's a 3 glyph set, okay? And basically there's an arrow, a cross, and a T. And the arrow is basically, it's telling you how to center, so you can actually read the glyphs properly. Because in ancient times, if you didn't know how to center, you couldn't navigate by the stars and know where you are. And unfortunately for Egyptologists, they're not taught to look at things like this. They're taught to do it all intellectually. So that intellectually, you're only getting some of the picture. You're not getting the whole picture and how to read it. And when you center, bang, everything opens up, and you start seeing, oh, there's all these different symbol glyphs here that are all different aspects of centering glyphs that are basically the key that unravels all of the glyphs. And I've spent five days and nights at the carry-on glyphs, and also at another star map across the road there under the full moon. And when you're in the full moon and in a centered mode, that's it, you got it. And I'll explain what that is right now. So when you center, you center up to your, what you call your third eye, okay, which is at your chiasmus in your brain. It's a cross. If you have a look at anatomy books, and then you center, you bring up your center and connect it to your third eye, not as they teach you in the Vedic sort of thing, because they want you to basically activate everything from the third eye, which is usually, you feel a light feeling between here, and you put your jaw forward a little bit and go, and you do this friction breathing and activates the third eye, and they get you to basically activate all your chakras like that. No, that's wrong. That's what the reptoids do, you know, want us to teach us to do, so they can control everything through the mind. But if you do it from the center, bang, you do it from your soul. Okay? Now, so when you basically center and go up to your chiasmus, you basically merge all your spirit aspects, which is all your animal totems, okay, in your body and head, and they all come up here and they merge as one. And that's when you're centered. And that's when you got access to all of your body technology. All of your body technology. That's when you got access to all your body technology. Sorry, there was a pause there, and I thought we lost transmission. And they all merge together at one between your two temples, and that's what the T is. Okay. Jit, jit. See, the T is the center line down your body, and the cross of the T, your two temples. Okay, I've just sort of explained that. And so once you basically center, and that literally, if you go and stand there in the middle, that's right in the center of the glyphs. And you might remember a post I did a couple of years where basically a shaman friend of mine, the only one in Australia that I know that can center, that I met up at the glyphs actually, funnily enough, just in the sort of the car space where you park before you go down the road to the glyphs. I met him there, and he was showing someone this photo, and it's actually of a magnetic fisheye that at the 13th hour of the day at 1 o'clock on a sunny day, he was centering, and he caught a photo of the big magnetic eye that people confuse to be the eye of Horus. And I put that photo up on Facebook, and it's still on my Facebook page, and I gave it to a couple of people. People might remember that post from a couple of years ago, but it's really quite amazing. And I won't say that shaman's name because, you know, I don't want to get people into trouble, because he's basically laying low and doing the work. And basically, I was doing some work with him. Oh, we've gone silent again.
I'm here, brother. I'm here. I'm just bringing up a picture. I want you to talk about this.
And him and I, when we were there for 5 days, we were basically there at the glyphs. Basically, he had some sand from the mouth of the Darling, where the Darling and Murray River meets in Australia, Uga, Australia here, because Uga is the original name of Australia that means uncultivated or fallow land. And the female reproductive organs of the earth are here in Australia. And the centre of it, the two fallopian tubes, okay, one goes up to Uluru on the left as you're looking down on it, and the other one to Tabletop Mountain, which is west of Brisbane, okay? They're the two ovaries. And basically speaking, they meet at the centre there, and there's all this magnetic sand. And the councils there have been basically trying to get rid of that magnetic sand for years and years and years, and they keep on dumping it in other places. But the sand is so magnetic that it takes a year. In a year's time, it keeps on coming back to that area. It's incredible.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that in I think our second talk that we did, and you had some. You had some in a jar behind you, and you showed it.
Yeah. I still got some. And what we were doing up there, there's all these sort of spirits, you know, that are needing release to go back to the dream time. And there's all these spirits from, you know, lots of Jesuit murders and this, that, and the other, and rituals and all that sort of thing that are stuck in, you know, all the lines of the earth, in energetic lines and stuff like that. And we've been doing release work to get all those spirits and souls so they can basically go back through all the mangrove swamps all around the place, so they can go back to Mother, you know, back down where the Murray and the Darling rivers meet.
Mm-hmm.
And so the best way to do it, and this other shaman came up with this idea that basically, and we've got north-south magnetic sand from down that area, and also east-west, two different types of sand. And we blended them together, and basically we scattered it all around Carryong there in the area there. And got a couple of medicinal sort of mushrooms and other sort of Banksia sort of flowers to mix with that to basically so all the spirits could travel with the sand, the magnetic sand, back to Mother. So basically, well, the reason why is because they've shut down the fisheye sort of thing, and they're using the intellectually colonized Biami stuff or the original people's stuff to get them hooked into the third eye and stuff like that. And a lot of people are going to hate me for saying all of this, but it's true. But the original Dreamtime, the only way that you could get to it, and the only language that can describe every particle and aspect and finest, unfelt tremor, is through the fisheye from your centre. And because hardly anyone's doing it now, and all these spirits and souls have been trapped in limbo, unable to get back to Mother, well, someone's got to do the work to send these spirits and souls back that have been stuck. So basically, we can start the Dreamtime again. And it doesn't matter who does the work. It doesn't matter whether you're white, brown, yellow, black, whatever. The work's just got to be done.
Yeah. I remember you talking about this. And Sugar Bee, he's saying the same things. Like, I remember. Yes, I very clearly remember. And we haven't stopped, and we've been seed dreaming ever since then. Literally, we've been dropping seeds everywhere we go. And some have sprouted, some haven't. But that work is being carried forward almost on a daily basis. My buddy Rob, does it like every other day. And talk about this. Let's talk about this pick, Goz. I don't want to cut you off, but I'm short on time here. And just one of the important things.
Just before we start on that, just to finish off, I did that for 5 days and 5 nights, literally at the beginning of the lockdown, and I was taking a risk. And I caught a train up there, and when you're centered, it makes you invisible at times. And I walked past these 12 policemen at this particular train station, and they were checking people to make sure they all had masks on and stuff like that. I didn't have a mask, and I had my other hat on with the mohawk, if you remember. And basically speaking, a railway worker said to me as I walked past, and there was police next to him and stuff like that, and he goes, "Man, that's a really mad hat. Where'd you find that?" And I had a bit of a yak to him, a bit of a laugh. And I said, "Oh, which train is it to go to this suburb over there?" I'm not going to say where I went. But I ended up in Carry On. I'm just protecting this shaman. And basically speaking, I just walked, and none of the police questioned me that I didn't have a mask or anything like that. So it pays to centre because it puts you in your confidence. And when you're assertive, you're confident, and you've got a sense of humour and all that sort of thing. It's amazing. It's amazing how you can just walk sort of invisibly through situations. And so I spent 5 days and 5 nights, not just at the Carry On Glyph site, but around the whole area, okay? Quite a few kilometres that way and that way, because this shaman he's literally spent the last 8 years talking to spirits in the area, find out what's going on and what needs to be done and all that sort of thing. And wow, I just sat back and listened to him because I didn't know the area, and I just learnt a lot of him, and then we exchanged information and stuff like that. And, we both got a few things wrong with this and this, but that's the thing, when you come together, you bring the information and you work out together what's right and what's wrong. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to that mind control.
I just want to point out that I hear that there are like portals that are around Carry On. And
yes.
Know where they are. And our buddy Stephen and Evans knows where some of them are too. So I just want to point out that there are portals and such that are around that site in which you can disappear and nobody can hear you, but you can see them and hear them. And I wonder if through ceremony and such, if those portals can be opened up to travel right further than just standing in the gateway, just in the doorway. That's kind of what it seems to be.
You're absolutely correct there, Omar, but I'm not going to talk about that at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't want to get into that either.
That's sacred information, and I don't want the wrong people.
Yeah, we need to make warnings and shit on that.
You get to places that they may not even know about. Look, I dare say they do know about a lot of these things, but I wouldn't say all of them. And, just out of due respect to all the original peoples that have been on this land, going back, to the original first Homo sapiens seedings, which is about 500,000 years ago, and there's second Homo sapiens as well. Not many people talk about that. Anyway, I won't get onto that now and get distracted. Let's go to that targeted individual diagram. Now, this is good. Okay, I didn't make this diagram, but it's very, very accurate. Okay, and just have a look. Look at the individual. Look at the 3 red arrows. Okay, and basically, you've got the Lockheed satellite tracking. I literally have a satellite that's basically burning through my crown at times. I've actually got an orgonite powder pendant right here at the moment as protection that's connected to my orgone generator behind me, okay? And that satellite tracking is a motherfucker. I tell you what, it is just, the things that it can do. And then the Vercutator attacks are telling you you see all the frequencies there? Okay, that seems to be like a frequency generator holder. I've got to look into that more. I don't even know what Vercutator means. And then you've got all the 5G Gwen towers and stuff like that are just throwing the stuff at you. And now that they've got the 5G stuff, millimeter waves, and you got all the little mini towers everywhere, stuff like that. Oh, the power, like literally, I can't sleep at the moment. They're trying to make me go crazy and lock me back up again by making me sleep. Every time I lie down or try and sleep, they're basically hitting me so hard. Like tonight, I went to bed early last night, about 11 o'clock, so I get some good rest before here. But at least I'm lying down, I'm getting some rest, even if I can't sleep. And I got very close to getting to sleep, and they love to do this, the sadomasochists. Just as I was getting to sleep, they just they turned the knob up to 11, and literally it was compressing my chest and my heart and my back and my feet and everything, and I had to go so deep into my center to hang on every time I do it. And I'm saying there's hardly any spiritual work that you can do, even just centering. I only just get through it. I just have to hold on, because it's like, as Joseph Farrell said years ago, with the Jewish scientists, they basically had limits when it basically came. This is in Germany and stuff like that, before the war, all that sort of thing. They had limits and they couldn't look in certain areas, but with all the Nazi scientists and the paperclip Nazis, they were given no limits. They were told, do what it takes to get all the spiritual important information from everywhere, from all the indigenous tribes and wherever it is on the earth. We want to just assemble all that information, put it into technology, and just throw away the spirituality. Fuck it all. And that's what they've done now. And that's what is a result of all of this stuff now. And this technology is so monstrously powerful. If you're not looking after your health, you're going to be stuck in this apocalypse time ahead. And
So Vercutator attack is a microwave generator that is capable of generating brief pulses of tunable narrowband microwaves at very high power levels. Its application is mainly in the area of electronic warfare and by way of interfering with electric equipment such as radars or radio equipment.
Yeah, so it's a microwave frequency generator. Yeah. And they just set the dials and this, that, and the other. Yeah, so that's the sort of preamp, so to speak, for what's going on with sending it through the 5G and all the rest of it.
I wonder if this is when the old tinfoil hat method comes in to block that satellite tracking and that. That's a word.
Have you ever seen the Wi-Fi with that dude AJ, and he's got this little CGI generated sort of goldfish in the goldfish bowl next to him called Hecklefish, and they're always taking the piss and putting the tinfoil hats, on the fish bowl and all that sort of thing. Now the thing is, this only blocks with this sort of level of frequency generation, I reckon this only blocks about 20%. It doesn't really work. I don't know how much you got to wrap together to basically get a sufficient block, but you know, it's sort of.
I wonder if you got lead and then wrap the lead in the tinfoil.
Yes, yes, right? Yes. The lead actually works, and yeah. I've got to work out something there for protection. I forgot about the lead because if you see, that's the thing. That's why they took the lead out of all the paints and stuff like that. Just even for building supplies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so no lead paint.
Right? Yeah, so basically so these frequencies can come through all the walls, the roof, everything. Like literally everywhere I go, I'm monitored. There's nowhere that I can go around here and they know everything that I was doing. And just before we started, they were starting to abuse me, going, fuck you, in my head and stuff like that. And, I'm just to the point. The key is if you're voice to skull sort of sufferer, I don't like using the word victim, because you've got to get out of that duality, victim, victimizer, sort of bipolar, sort of flip-flop sort of state. Otherwise, you're not going to get through this stuff. Mm-hmm. And sorry, I've just dropped out again.
What's the you know, that solution? Like, what are they looking for from you, Goth? Are they just trying to like fucking shut you up, or are they trying to kill you, or like you know, like,
usually
what's their you know like end goal? They must have an end goal of some sort. And you know, same thing with David Greensburg here. He's saying the same thing. He's like, I was attacked with directed energy weapons mercilessly about 13 years ago. Jack is saying the same thing up here. He says, I had info. I was being tracked by Doppler radar. And there's a
I use the Doppler radar to control the weather. It's not hard, you know. It's the
you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the end goal of like all of this?
Weather war out on YouTube. Sorry. Okay. Well, let me give you an analogy at first.
Okay.
When the elites do fox hunts, okay, they literally get little children and they chase after them like fox hunts, and they got different tags on them, okay. And
yeah.
And one coded tag basically says, okay, they're important bloodline. You can't kill them. You can have fun with them, hunting them, but you can't kill them. But the ones that are not significant bloodlines to them, okay, they actually kill, okay? And the same thing.
I was wondering about that earlier. I was going to ask you what the blood type is.
If you're an important bloodline to them, it's the same in real life when you're an adult. I've been fox hunted all my life, and I've constantly gone in all these cycles where they basically sort of chase after me, this, that, and the other, because they love playing games, sick, perverted games. Another Draco mentality, Elohim consciousness thing. Like the Elohim are basically green Shem Dracos, the Seraphim are brown Hathor Dracos. I could go through all of this, but I'm not going to go into that sort of Bible area for the moment, but I'm just giving you an example. But yeah. That's their consciousness. And now as an adult, okay, they fox hunt all the people with important bloodlines, whether they know it or not. And this is the thing. I had to spend my life from a child, because after I had all that stuff happen to me as an infant, I then went through school and I was bullied, and this happened and that happened. It was just one thing after another. And eventually the initial trauma as an infant that I remembered quite a bit of, despite the fact that I was memory wiped, the more trauma you go through, eventually that gets buried. And then you have to sort of bring up all of that stuff through regression and face it all. And then you take the emotional charge out of all the trauma that's kept in the body. And the way you basically get to that is that you can do it through third eye regression, but it's better to be centered, like as I said, and not activated through here first. And what you do, you have a client and a connector, and you basically go over the client's body with your hand when you're in this state, and you feel for sort of energy drops or hot spots, and you go down to that, and then you start the regression on that spot, because that's where a trauma memory is. And basically, you help that, then you help that person through, okay? You help them navigate through the journey of what they got to remember that's stuck in their unconscious. And the most deepest unconscious memories are contained in the spleen. That's why so many people, and so many males in particular, collapse. And people had hip operations and stuff like that, because the pelvis, just falls in, the whole spleen, everything like that, because you're carrying so much weight from all that emotional charge. And that's the problem with psychiatry. They just focus on the brain to just fuck up the brain, stop your dopamine flow, and it cuts you off from your center. Mm-hmm. So basically, yeah, you're not in connection with your whole organic body technology. And so when you do this, you take the emotional charge out of the trauma, and then it goes. Okay, that's how you do it. Okay, that's just a brief sort of rundown of that. But yeah, that's how it's done, Omar.
Cool. I'm going to try that on my girl, and try it on me as well, because we do Reiki on one another, and there's been times where I've experienced the very same thing that you just described while I'm running my hand over her, where in parts it just becomes really hot, and then it seems like there's some parts that are like really cool. And the parts that are really cool, it seems like there isn't too much energy there. And then if I move my hand, further along, then there's that same auric energy that's there. So, now I understand. That's why I peaked when you said that hot and cold. And now what I was feeling.
So now you know how to do it. So if you want to basically see, trauma is contained in the body.
Yeah.
Psychiatry doesn't deal with it because it's all eugenics. It's all Rockefeller pseudoscience that's basically funded into existence, on the fringe of the medical industry, which is pharmaceutical and energy, farm use sea cattle, industry, because we are all sea cattle basically, because we originally all come from the sea. I'll go into that sort of later, maybe if we've got time. But I'm just sort of breaking down that word a bit. And that's the thing. It was on the fringe of the medical industry, the mainstream medical industry, and just got funded into existence. And it's really just, it's horrible. Like, these psychiatric drugs are worse than any other street drug that's out there. And not only that, it basically turns you into an inorganic portal so the sorcerers can use you through all the crystalline technology, because all crystalline is secondary inorganic elements, and that's what they use. All of the Draco and New World Order technology works through crystalline structures, and they want to make it like with the Philosopher's Stone. You're basically turning yourself into a vehicle by making yourself crystalline, so a big senior Draco can walk into you, and that's what they call the fucking oversoul. Which you don't know. You already got a soul; it goes everywhere. You don't need an oversoul. That's all to do with mind sort of stuff. And basically it gives you immortality. And the way that you basically make the Philosopher's Stone is through basically the process of fermenting and distilling urine, okay? That eventually over years and stuff like that, it turns into like a white ball at first, and then it turns red. And then you eat it, and that's how you get the inorganic immortality. Like when you look at guys like Saint Germain, who's this dude that's basically popped up through history everywhere.
Yeah, I was just thinking about him, and I think he's like 400 years old now, 500 years old. He's been seen in bars, drinking, still looks the same.
Well, he was reported to be there at the time of Jesus, and he was the guy that basically, when he dropped the cross and stuff like that, sort of came up to him, and Jesus basically said to him, well, basically, you're going to still be around here until I come back, Very, very interesting. But the whole Jesus thing, though, is the franchise, okay? Just like Buddhism and stuff like that, because all of the original spiritualities and religions have all been chopped up from the original Holy Bible, natural law book of magnetism, that literally, that's the thing. It's all of our history. Everyone, every race, everything. And unfortunately, the reptoid human hybrid races have been used to basically subvert all the original races, whether they know it or not. And I'm not saying, but the thing is, when you mix two tribes, you might remember, I think I talked about this in the 9-hour talk, or one of the talks we did. They don't teach us about soul genetics. And once you comprehend soul genetics, it's so much easier to basically trace your roots back. But they only teach us about sort of DNA material genetics, and you're not going to find out the whole picture that way. And the thing is that when you mix a sort of Mudger tribe with a different sort of reptoid hybrid human tribe, what happens is souls from either tribe can ping pong into the wrong bloodline. And so souls that are initially in this bloodline, after people mix and mix and mix and mix and mix, the souls end up so far from home, they don't know where they are. And that's part of the whole agenda in the plan. Did you get all that?
Yeah, I'm here. I mute myself, and then I say shit, and then I realize that I'm muted.
Yeah, sorry. It just the ambience just goes quiet. It sounds like I'm cut off when I'm talking or something like that. So I'm just checking, whether.
No, I'm here because I got kids screaming in the background and like this.
Yeah.
Just give me a sec, bud.
Sure.
Gosh, just keep on talking, brother. It's my wife. I'll be with you just in 1 minute. I'm listening. I'm here.
No problem. I'll just wait for you for a second. What else can I talk about that's related? So with the targeted individual stuff and the voice to skull, it's very real because basically it's artificial schizophrenia where they're basically putting voices into head. Now, sometimes traditionally with schizophrenia, you have when people have entities that are basically when people are really depressed and stuff like that and down, there's auric cracks.
They tried to diagnose me with that.
They develop and the entities get in and lock to your chakras and all that sort of thing, except for the center chakra because that's too pure. That's pure. The solar plexus, that's where your sun, Ishtan energy is coming through, okay? And they don't lock to that. But what they do is they very cleverly con us into giving our energy, our soul energy, up to the mind and other places so they can feed off it. And it's dropped down energy. It becomes secondary. See, this is the key. If everyone basically operates from their soul, their gut first, because this is the thing, information, your gut instinct, information hits the gut first before it hits the heart and brain. So it's all about feel here, Same with the fisheye. You're feeling out there. 80% of the fisheye is all feel. Only 20% of it is visual, okay? And the thing is that once you map the consciousness of your own, gut unconscious, then you start to know what's going on with feel, and then you just start going to things just like that. And I've been doing that for 30 years while people have been doing third eye stuff and mapping all this stuff. It took me 20 years, as I said, to basically work out all the stuff from what's available. And then when I met Attila Flink, then the rest fell into place for me working out my own stuff. And I've spent a bit over 10 years centering now. And it's like they say with any master or anything like that, it's like you have to make mistakes. You have to trial and error until you get to that level and keep on moving up and further and fuller until you get there. And you have to ignore all the ridicule that people give you along the way as you're learning, because in this day and age, everyone expects you to be perfect because there's this whole narcissistic thing of, I can't look, this or that, and people think this of me, that. Fuck all that, When
I was younger, I used to
and just go through the motions, make your mistakes from learning, because this is the thing. We came from a perfect reality. This is what they don't want you to know. We came from a perfect reality in Oasis. Our bodies have been sort of hacked down, but yet it's been based on the original sort of actual omni-being body that we used to have. And the thing is, even though they've got
call it the prime reality.
Yeah. And the thing is, even though we've got the chakra overlay now, we've actually got all these medicine wheels all over our body because I've used them in healing. And it's something that I only discovered after 10 years of centering. It took me 10 years to get there. And I'll tell you what they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
And there's that 10.
And 21, the one on the top, because our pineal used to be, I think I've talked about this before, Used to be up here. Go and have a look at Teletubbies, where they got the idea from that. That was from the actual omni beams. And they've gotten this pineal, got this, put it into the pineal gland in the head to be a movie projector onto the third eye movie screen with a really noisy, sort of like two-stroke sort of lawnmower diesel noisy thing that's running all the time. Because, you know, they're always talking in meditation, third eye meditation, in observing and quieting the mind. We shouldn't have all that noise there. When you're centered and you focus your mind on your center, okay, that's how you shut your mind up, and that's how you get into the moment. And you can literally go to the future in that way. Because
my mind is quiet.
The present moment, the magnetic present moment, if you want to hook into the Earth's magnetism and all the primary elements, that's what you got to do. You've got to be that present in the now to sort of get there.
That is so cool, Goz, because I don't have that clutter, that ongoing noise, that sound in my brain, in my mind. I don't have that. When I close my eyes, I'm it's there's nothing. It's just absolute silent. And perhaps one of the reasons for it is that, you know, when I was younger, they tried to say that I was schizophrenic. They tried to diagnose me with that. They tried to put me on drugs for that, but I refused. Yeah. And at that time, you know, I was hearing voices in my head, and I did have people talking to me, and I didn't understand exactly what was going on. But then at points I would focus on those voices and I would listen, and it wouldn't make any sense in what they were saying, because it just sounded like really a lot of clutter. It was kind of like, you know, like 10 radio stations playing at the same time. And it was that type of noise that was going on. So what I decided to do is I decided to not pay any attention to them. And through meditation, I just began to silence them out. And then one day
shadow work,
one day they were there, and one day it was gone, and I don't have that voice in my head, and I don't have that clutter anymore either. You know. And
also, were you drinking and taking drugs when you were younger and all that sort of thing?
Oh yeah.
That brings it on. You know?
Yeah, I ate a lot of acid. I ate a lot of mushrooms.
Yeah.
I didn't drink a whole lot, actually. I didn't drink at all until I was into my mid-20s. I smoked a lot of pot, smoked a lot of hash, and that was it. You know, those four things. It was continuous, right? I used that shit for years.
Because the thing is that if you're getting good organic pot of the right strain, it's the number one prime medicine before the pharmaceutical industry used to take over. But now they've laced all the pot. Here they've got all this horrible Chinese pot, the Chinese strain pot that's just, it's just so horrible. Mm-hmm. You know, it's enough to make you give up, because it doesn't get you stoned. It just gives you, you know, a psychiatric condition, so to speak. So, you know, they can lock people up. And this is the thing, put people on antipsychotics because you're hearing voices and all that sort of thing, but they're actually artificial voices from voice and skull in those sort of cases. And it gives them excuse, okay, put them on antipsychotics, and then we can
make sense, because I grew up
and use all the poor sufferers, mental health sufferers, as organic portals. Because this
I wonder if I was ever.
They know that. And if you're not your own doctor, doing your own thing, sorry, just to finish off. If you're not your own doctor, you're a fool. That's what Hippocrates said. And if you're not mapping the consciousness, and you've got to know yourself first before anything else, you've got to basically read your own book, you know. You've got to get your head, put it there, and read your own book. You've got to read the rest of your body. And we're not taught to read the rest of our body. We're taught, see, that's the thing, from birth we're got an intellectually colonized mind with all the information that we're given, bush all the time, where basically the way that you learn in life is intuitively and instinctively by experiencing. You're not going to know anything unless you really experience it.
That's right. You got to do it to learn it.
And most people just vicariously do it through all the intellectual study and all the rest of it, and it just causes shit fights and stuff like that. And look, we come originally from a world of do no harm, and the strongest alpha men would basically do anything to protect that beautiful, peaceful world. Sorry, you were saying.
I was going to say, I wonder if, if there was something that was done to me, because I grew up in the government, right? I grew up in
Ah,
institutions and group homes and foster homes and institution for the troubled youth, right? And I was in that system for 8 years, and it was during that 8 years where I was hearing voices and things like that in my head. And there's a huge fragment of my life, like in the 90s actually, pretty much right from about 1994 till about 2000, 2001, where it's an absolute blank. Like I just don't have, I've
yeah.
got zero memory of that time. And that is just a couple of years after I was, no longer in custody of the government, because they were my parental custody.
Yes.
Right?
It sounds like you could well be some kind of MK Ultra thing and you didn't even know about it, because it takes a lifetime to work out this stuff. You've got to really investigate it. And because you were institutionalized like that, like I actually ended up in one jail here out of Park Lee because they fucked up the whole court thing. And they said, sorry, you're going to have to go to jail for the weekend, and on Monday you're going to have to talk to the court from jail and all that sort of thing. And I got out easily enough, but once I was in jail for 3 days, I tell you what, that's a place you never want to end up, because you can feel how heavy in the mind control frequencies and everything like that. And they use jail people like, Kissinger calls soldiers as, useless cattle to be experimented on. It's the same thing in the jails. And it's just like, what I observed in there was like, oh my goodness, this is somewhere I never want to end up again. So and that was just through what happened to me. I didn't mention that before. That was the last sort of thing, because, they got me twice, They got me in February, and then once I got out for 6 weeks, the voice to skull. See, over 5 years I've had the voice to skull. The voice to skull has tricked me. They even said my daughter was being sort of, ritualized in a very rich house down the road here, and all the rest of it on the wharf and all that sort of thing. And they know how to pimp your instincts to use your better self against yourself. Mm-hmm. And I sort of gone, fuck, I've got to go down there and check and see what's happening, because if it's real, and I was trying to ring her the whole time and she's not talking to me, the mother's poisoned her, this has happened, blah, blah, blah. I hate to think what's happened to her. I trust that she's okay. And that's the thing. That's quite a story in itself, but I won't go into it. But yeah, that's how low rent consciousness these people are, and they're specialists in how to do this sort of thing to you. And because I did that, I trespassed on this property. Initially, after what happened, the police actually just drove me back home. Cut a long story short, like I got subdued by a security guard that almost broke my neck, and I had to fight this really huge guy, and he ended up sort of like stopping because I actually pulsed him in the side of his ribs with some fire, some shamanic, all that sort of stuff. But it actually weakened him and slowed him up, and then he just let me go and dropped me on the ground. But I've had to put up a big struggle. And then police came, blah, blah, blah. They drove me home, and then they gave me a ticket for trespassing. And I thought, that's really odd. Usually they take you to the police station for trespassing and to charge, all that sort of thing. So it made me think they're probably trying to hush this up, There could have been something happened down there. So I went down there 6 months later, and I observed from a public place on the wharf. The security from down there basically called the police, and they gave me a move-on order. And then 3 days later, they arrested me for stalking and stuff like that. So that was the second time.
Shit.
Yeah, I didn't do anything wrong. All I was doing was just looking at the building and sussing it out, and I was still trying to work out what was going on. It's this voice discovered. They're so tricky, and they can lead you down false paths and stuff like that. And so you just got to realise it's all bullshit.
Yes.
You just got to do your best to just ignore them, not react, and not pay attention. It's really hard, because once they start putting the frequency weapons on you as well, that puts you in a more vulnerable state where you might react. And at times I do a psychological deconstruct of them and put them back in their place. But I'm sort of overdoing that now. because they don't stop. They just keep repeating. Even when you call them out, even though you take their power away and stuff like that, they keep on doing it because they got the tech to back it up. It's the tech that really gets you and it's debilitating. So, yeah, that's my best advice to all the targeted individuals and people that are going through this shit. And thousands of people all over the world are going through this stuff. And it's like, as I always knew, I've studied in the last 15, 20 years enough subjects to have a few university degrees in sort of law, medicine, natural medicine, history, linguistics, and so on. But in computers, I've just always followed my nose, and I don't know a lot about it. Sometimes when I really have to find something, you know, I get good at something. It's like sound engineering production. Once I get deep into it, I find stuff, you know, following my nose. But if you don't keep it up, you forget about it. And, you know, it's the same with sound engineering producing. If you don't do it all the time, you have to warm back up into it and remember back then and all that sort of thing. It's the same with this stuff. And with these guys, and I always knew that in the apocalyptic sort of times that we are in now, we need hackers, good people, to basically, you know, take down all this stuff. And it's all possible, okay? So that's the thing. It's coming down to a war of hackers, basically, you know.
Nothing an EMP won't fix, my brother. All right, my guy, we're hitting the 2-hour marker here. And
sure.
I am brutally hot. It's like 40 degrees right now. And
wow.
Yeah, it's hot. It's terribly hot right now, and I don't think it's maxed out just yet because usually maxes out around 6, and it's only 4 o'clock. And plus the old algorithms, they're gonna fuck with us after 2 hours, and I figured keep it best at 2 hours. But I want to get you back, right? I want to get you back in a couple of weeks because
sure.
10 days I get married, and then I'll be gone for a little bit, and then once I come back, probably like mid-August, let's pick it up where we left off and carry on with this.
That would be great, Omar. It's been totally wonderful talking to you again today. I was a little bit nervous before because I haven't done a talk in a while, and I was thinking, am I healed enough from everything that I've been through? And I think today, well, I'll let the viewers decide that. And it's felt really good.
I'm glad you came out. I'm glad you shared, and you know, nothing to be nervous about here on Watchers Talk.
Yeah. But
we're just straight up.
Let's kudos to you and the energetic space that you're providing here.
Absolutely. I want to keep it as, you know, cool as possible because I totally understand what you've gone through. Like I said, I've gone through the same thing myself. You know, maybe not frequency attacked and energy weapon attacked, but you know, when it comes to psychological stuff, you know, I can empathize and I can totally understand the situations where you're at. And I'm glad that you shared with us because everybody needs to know this because there's a lot of people that are going through this. And, you know, and as you mentioned, you know, like I may not even know that I'm under, you know, went through some kind of mind programming MK Ultra while I was awarded the government. And there's a lot of people like that, like me out there that, you know, may have. But, you know, just simply have no idea. And it's through discussions like these that enlighten you and raise your awareness about yourself.
Absolutely.
And, you know, so I thank you, my brother. I truly do. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you for giving me the space because I downloaded some stuff today that I've been wanting to download for a while. And it's very risky what I've done. I could get in trouble for this. The usual suspects could well try to sort of drug, as I said, as I was threatened, you know, drug me to the eyeballs and lock me up for good. But I just go, fuck them all. I'm over your stuff. I'm sick of being tormented. I'm sick of being harassed. You know, I'm sick of the energy weapon attacks. I don't even know how I'm still getting together because I haven't had any sleep for over a week. You know, but I rest. And when you don't sleep, you've got to keep on putting good things into your body all the time, whether you're eating it or vitamins and supplements and all that. And maybe we can have a show about that because I'm really good.
Absolutely. Actually, I'm working on something.
Yeah. Because I've had so much experience having to do myself.
Maybe let's make that our next talk next time. Talk
yes,
about food,
yeah.
because and that's very, very important. I've been doing a lot of research on this as well. I'm actually working on a project, and I trust you enough that I'll tell you about it, and then maybe you can help me on it. And
yes, we can share information because
for sure.
As we share experience on that stuff, there's going to be things that you know that I don't know, and vice versa, and everyone benefits.
Everyone benefits.
That's what it's all about. But you and I are true, pure souls, and we're here for everybody, and that's what it's all about. And in this satanically inverted world now, everyone's thought to be a narcissist and selfish and out for themselves. And if they haven't done the work, and I feel for people who basically have got good, successful jobs, got money, this, that, and the other, but they're so easily taken over. That's the thing, because they're spending all their time doing that. No, not doing work on themselves. It's like, as a friend said to me years ago, look, I don't have the time to work on myself. I'm so busy and got such high, stress pressure. He works in sort of, advertising, jingle work and stuff like that. And I admire him because, when we were at uni together and the first 10 years in the music industry, we're, both scrapping around for gigs and doing everything, getting good as possible. And then he got very successful, sort of making his way into that world. But unfortunately, he's not really had time to work on himself, and hence, I've had all my best friends turn against me, and I know it's all been manipulation, and I still love them all greatly. But if they're in an abusive state, you can't love someone who's abusing you. Otherwise, that's Stockholm syndrome. It's very, very difficult.
Yes. Difficult. Oh, absolutely. We're suffering from Stockholm syndrome.
Until they start loving themselves, giving their soul the gift of true knowledge, that's true loving yourself. It's not this hedonistic looking up, pampering yourself. It's giving your soul the gift of true knowledge. So your inner child down here that's been tormented and abused and suffered can basically gather all of that information and heal itself, and then you can grow up while still having full creativity of your child within. So I just want to say that as well.
Totally makes sense. Thank you, my love. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, man. And
thank you so much.
Any final words for at least the next 2 weeks before I let you go? Final parting message for all our friends out there, our brothers and sisters.
I've got a YouTube channel. It's called Mr. Gozaimus, which is Mr. But then I put a capital G right next to the Mr. with no gap. And Gozaimus, a Japanese word, which means it is so. Okay. It's also a courtesy respect word. I got that nickname in Japan when I worked there back in 2004, almost 20 years ago, as a musician. But yeah, that's my YouTube channel. It's MRGOZAIMASU. And the U is silent in Japanese to basically make the sound of the S. Gozaimasu. Gozaimashita. That was just all spontaneous. Some people call it animal sounds. Well, we are animals. We came from animals, but beautiful, loving, passionate animals that had consciousness in a perfect world, where we lived off the essences of the environment. We didn't need to eat. That's for next time.
Beautiful. And maybe our moderators out there can find Goz's YouTube and throw that link into the chat room so people can go over there, subscribe, and follow Goz on his channel and learn some more. And if you guys follow Facebook, if you're on Facebook, then check Goz out on Facebook. As also shoot him a friend's request, become friends with him, pick his brain, talk to him, go through his posts, and learn and center yourself. Because that's the key lesson that I am taking away from here today is to center yourself in your gut. That sixth sense feeling that you get.
You got to use it all. Ultimately, that's the thing. When you're centered, you're using, gut, heart, and brain. But This is the ignition area. This is where you turn on the car engine, okay? And when you center yourself, it actually protects your heart. It insulates your heart. If you're coming from your heart open-hearted, you're open for attacks. And the heart is your motor. And once the motor goes, you're gone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Center yourself, and that's going to insulate your heart and protect it.
Yeah, absolutely. Center yourself, my beauties. Center yourself. Be in love.
Just get your consciousness and start moving it around your body, okay? Drop your consciousness from your head down to here, move it around here, and once you get kinesiology awareness around your body, you start to open up and you get more information out of your body and connect with nature and all sorts of areas. We'll talk about that later too. Remind me.
Awesome. Yeah, the body memory and the brain memory, and those are two completely different things. So I'd love to get into that. And until next time, my loves, don't forget to say I love you to yourself. Be in love with yourselves. Be in love with everything around you. Give yourself gratitude. Give yourself appreciation, because if you don't, no one else will. But when you do, then it's like the law of attraction. It just comes to you, and everyone gives you love, and everyone appreciates you, and everyone gives you, gratitude. And that's what it's all about, because when we feel appreciated, then we work at our maximum peak, because that's just how we are. That's the human nature. So until then, my friends, be happy, be well, and hopefully I will see you guys soon in the next few days. And so be well, be happy, and bye for now.
Ciao for now.